Welcome. Welcome to the online worship service here at First Jefferson UU Church. My name is Reverend Dr. Aya Dolm, and I'm delighted to be here today as your guest speaker while your minister, Reverend Amy Furster, is having her well-deserved Sunday off. I'm glad you're joining for worship with us. In this space, we proclaim a liberal faith, and we welcome all in our doors. I welcome you who are new to this community and are wondering whether there is something here that might answer your heart's longings. And I welcome you who are returning to this place to find strength, healing, or inspiration for your journey. Here in this community, we are committed to affirm the dignity and worth of every human being. We strive to do the work of justice, and we honor wisdom that is found in all faith and all religions. We are recording this worship on Saturday, and here with me is a small crew of very dedicated people who make magic possible so that we can connect and stay in touch with each other and continue our faith journeys. So let us begin by centering ourselves as your talented minister of music and pianist Misha Beresnev plays the prelude. We enter our sacred space together with these words by Reverend Florence Kaplow on this strange Sunday. On this strange Sunday, we gather together in new ways, linked to each other through the delicate tracery of electrons and through the invisible bonds of caring and love, sharing with millions the wondering and fear and uncertainty of this time. In this time together, may each of us find our ground of strength and clarity. May each of us let our hearts break open to new ways of caring for our neighbor as ourselves. May each of us know, even if we are alone, that we are held in a great embrace of love. In this spirit we gather, and let us begin. Please join for our opening hymn, number 361, Enter, Rejoice. And our song leader today is Reneel Baker.
Enter, rejoice in the wind. Enter, rejoice in the wind.
chalice is a symbol of our free faith. As I light it to guide us today, please join me in saying these words by Eric Walker Wickstrom, Why We Are Here. Here today, in this place, and with these people, may we listen so that we can hear. May we hear so that we can feel. May we feel so that we can know. And may we know so that we can change ourselves and this world. May this chalice we light our way. In our opening hymn, we sang, "Don't be afraid of some change. Don't be afraid of some change." We sing it joyfully, yet listen to the words, "Don't be afraid of some change." What are these words telling you? For our questions this Sunday, I invite us to reflect on the changes, particularly thinking about this year, 2020, and the changes it has brought in our lives. What is staying the same for you? What has changed? And what are these changes telling you? How are you responding to these changes? How is your faith guiding you during this time, and what change do you need in your life at this time? As we think about these questions throughout the service, I will offer my reflections and thoughts with you, and these will come in 2 sections. But before we begin, I invite us to ground ourselves in the covenant of this community. Please join me in reminding ourselves of the promise we give to each other. Love is the doctrine of this church. The quest of truth is its sacrament, and service is our prayer. To dwell together in peace, to seek knowledge in freedom, to serve others in community, to the end that all souls shall grow into harmony with creation. Thus do we covenant with one another. The message for all today comes from the Unitarian Church of Sharon in Massachusetts. And it's the work of Luis Marcuse and Reverend Julie Olivetti. I invite you to try out something a little bit different today, and we'll see how this works. I invite you to join me in a conversation. If you're watching this worship service together with your family, share your thoughts with one another. If you're by yourself, please write your thoughts down so you can share them with others later, maybe during the next Zoom meeting on Tuesday evening. We think of ourselves as staying basically the same person that we were yesterday. But things around us change, and we change too. We grow taller, and suddenly our pants aren't touching our shoes anymore. We encounter things that surprise us, things we didn't expect. And those experiences change how we think of ourselves and the world around us. I'd like to invite everyone to think for a moment about changes that have been happening in your life. Changes in your body, changes at home, at school or work, at church, in your neighborhood. And as we think about these, I invite you to think about what it is like to be a caterpillar. You see the caterpillar? So the caterpillar says, "Today I will eat this whole leaf. The next day comes, and the caterpillar says, today I will eat this whole leaf. But it just doesn't seem like enough, so I'll eat another leaf. And the next day comes, and the caterpillar says, today I will eat 2 leaves. But again, that doesn't seem quite enough, so I'll eat another leaf. So what is staying the same and what is changing? I will make a few guesses that you might be sharing with one another. That mostly things are staying the same. The caterpillar is eating the same stuff, kind of doing the same thing, but just getting a little bigger every day and maybe eating a little more with each day. So my next questions are, what are some of the things that are part of your routine? Things that are the same? And whose life is kind of like that of a life of a caterpillar? Eating food, walking around, doing similar things each day, but getting a little bit bigger every day. You can just feel free to raise your hands. So the story continues. The caterpillar says, today I will eat 4 leaves. And then I will go to the bottom of this leaf, and I will make a little hook on it out of silk. And then I will connect my body to the hook. Then I will make my body into a shape of a letter J. And then I will squirm and squirm out. The outer layer of my skin comes off, so that until the outer layer of my skin comes off, so that a lumpy green and yellow shell shows. And then I will squirm and squirm some more until the shell becomes smooth and green. What is staying the same and what is changing? Now the caterpillar is gone. It cannot move. It can't eat. It is connected to a leaf. It doesn't have eyes anymore. It doesn't have a mouth. It doesn't have feet. It has become goo inside of chrysalis. Whose life is kind of like this chrysalis? If you raise your hand. In the chrysalis, everything is changing all at once. The creature inside no longer has feet, eyes, or a mouth. It has let go of all the things it used to be able to do. Totally let go. And it is slowly, slowly reorganizing itself to become something that it has never been before. Becoming something that will be able to do things that it could never do before. In our lives, change can be like this too. It can feel huge, overwhelming. It can ask us to be something that we are not right now, to do things that we have never done before. The caterpillar allows new connections to form, some of them that are totally different and completely unimaginable based on what it knew about itself before. We can do this too. We can slow down, we can take care of ourselves and protect ourselves and each other, and we can allow ourselves to become who we are becoming, even if it's not quite what we expected. Please join in our next hymn, which is number 351, "A Long, Long Way, the Sea Winds Blow." In a Calvin and Hobbes cartoon, the 6-year-old boy Calvin asserts, "I thrive on change." Hobbes is very surprised. "You?" he asks. "You threw a fit this morning because your mom put less jelly on your toast than yesterday." Calvin clarifies, "I thrive on making other people change." I can relate to this cartoon. It is certainly much easier if others change and I don't have to. I suspect that many of us do not embrace all change willingly, especially when it comes all at once, and as it often is inflicted upon us from the outside. The loss of a job, the loss of a loved one, or the pandemic that has turned our lives upside down. Many of us have experienced change that is overwhelming, difficult, and demanding a lot of us. So we resist change. We seek to avoid it at all costs. We deny it. We make demands, and we throw a fit. However, in the end, we do change, whether for better or not so much. We cannot escape change. 2020 has showed that to us in more than one way. From the onset of pandemic and the shelter-in-place order to current protective measures, our lives have become very different. We keep 6 feet distance, wash our hands, and wear masks because we care about people around us. We worship online and we meet on Zoom, and we limit our social gatherings to practice our due diligence in protecting one another. And these are not the only things that have changed. The economy is struggling, with financial markets fluctuating with immense volatility. While some billionaires have made significant profits in these new circumstances, The Wall Street Journal reports that layoffs have topped almost 40 million. Another data shows 20 million people tapping into unemployment benefits. And as we know, not everyone is eligible to receive governmental assistance. Many people are facing eviction due to financial strain, and we are about to see a significant increase in the homelessness crisis. Families of more than 136,000 people who have died of COVID-19 and of many others who have lost their loved ones for other causes during this time are not able to gather and grieve together. Internationally, America is losing its status and power. The United States is being asked to change from its domineering aggressor stance to becoming a collaborator, and it is not working well. America is retreating. We are no longer part of Paris Climate Change Agreement or Iran nuclear deal, and now we're exiting World Health Organization. These are just a few examples of how America is exiting the world stage, and with it, it shows us the shrinking influence of our country. When we think about these changes on a global scale, the United States has gone through identity changes before. According to Daniel Immerwahr, Associate Professor of History, the United States has not always been called America. The name arose at the beginning of the 20th century in response to the United States becoming an empire. Yes, the official name has always been the United States of America. Yet it wasn't a common practice to refer to the country as America. George Washington called his country the Union. His generation knew that the epithet America applied equally to Paraguay and other countries on this continent, and the South American continent. So they used other names, the United States, the Republic, the Union. The historian Caitlin Fitz writes that the early republic used Columbia, thus symbolically emphasizing the independence from the Great Britain by aligning themselves with non-British Columbus, who really never set foot in North America. King's College in New York City changed its name to Columbia College in 1784, and the new capital as of 1800 was the District of Columbia. This move created ties with other Central and South American countries, yet when the United States began overseas colonialism, things changed. After war with Spain in 1898, the United States annexed Spanish colonies, Philippines, Puerto Rico, Guam, and also non-Spanish lands, Hawaii and American Samoa. This was a proud entrance into the Imperial Club, and the writers proposed new names: Imperial America, the Greater Republic, the Greater United States, but the name that stuck was America. The first president to take office after the war with Spain was Teddy Roosevelt. He was quite determined imperialist, and he spoke of America in his first annual message and used this term freely and frequently, and every president after him has too. But what happens when an empire collapses? Historically, internal unrest and change in identity. Not easy transitions. A UU professor, Sharon Welsh, writes, "We are once again in the process of national identity formation. The myth of America, where the vision of American innocence, beneficence, and global preeminence is no longer secure." What are these changes telling us? What are we hearing in them? I wonder how many of us raised a hand feeling like Chrysalis because of pandemic, feeling like everything is changing at once. These changes lift up our UU principle of the interconnectedness of our lives. What affects one affects us all. The pandemic has brought this internet-connected awareness to new levels, possibly more than the climate change has. Professor John Tatamani highlights a saying that when a butterfly flutters its wings in the Amazon, it triggers a typhoon in China. This is called the butterfly effect, where the most delicate fluctuation in the conditions affects change far beyond our ability to comprehend in all its fullness. This is the truth about our radical interconnectedness, that every single element is bound to everything else. Our ties to one another can wound as well as heal, and herein lies our hope. The spiritual meaning of every situation is not what happens to us, but what we do with what happens to us. Who do we decide to become because of that? Can we see this time as time in Chrysalis? Instead of seeing this time as a quarantine, a space of isolation and deprivation, can we imagine this to be a space of transformation, an opportunity to learn, to explore, start, finish, rest, in some way or another to emerge as more than when we went into it, more educated, more alive, more connected, more present. The time in Chrysalis is a time of transition and changes. Yet not everything has changed. We are still people and a congregation here with a purpose. As UUs, we are committed to change as part of our social justice work. And as such, we strive to be companions to one another on this journey. We are here to listen to each other and care for each other. Our faith and our faith community gives us strength and wisdom to face these changes. And it gives us the capacity to become people in whose presence the world moves toward healing. This seems to be a good place to pause and join in your ritual of communion of names and milestones. It's a time of holding one another in our hearts. We share our joys and sorrows as well as our care and compassion for one another. And if you would like to lift up something that you are experiencing during this time and would like the congregation to know, please send your minister, Annie Forster, an email or give a call by Friday so that whoever's leading the service can include your experiences during the worship service. And we all can hold you in prayers and thoughts, as well as rejoice with you in joyful events. Today we have one event that has been shared with me, and this is about your bookkeeping computer in the office that died this week. Fortunately, you have amazing talents in your congregation. David Winkowski and Guy Thornton brought it back to life. And now bills will be paid on time. This is a great joy to have amazing, dedicated, and committed, and skilled, talented people all in this community. May we be reminded of how interconnected we are with each other in that what affects one affects us all. Let us take a moment to quiet ourselves so we can feel what stirs within us. Breathe with me. As we breathe together, with each breath, come closer to the pulse of life. With each exhalation, make room for something new. Opening space for compassion, for ourselves and for those around us. Getting in touch with our patience for all the sharp edges, and allowing the rhythm of our breath to bring us back to a place of gratitude. As we continue to breathe together, may we hold in our hearts all of those whose lives are changing all at once. When I was thinking about the sermon for today, a song came to my mind. A song that reminded me of a time when my country was going through significant changes and the world was turned upside down. The song is a powerful ballad written by a German hard rock band, Scorpions, and it's called Wind of Change, hence the title of the reflection for today, Listening to the Wind of Change. This song became very popular in 1991. The rock band was invited to participate in the legendary Moscow Music Peace Festival in August of 1989. This was a time when tensions in the East European communist countries were high. The Soviet perestroika as economic reform had begun significant political changes, eventually leading to the fall of the Soviet Union. It was there in Moscow during the music festival that the lead singer Klaus Meine was inspired to write this song, capturing the mood of the crumbling communist bloc and people's hope for change. Take me to the magic of the moment of a glory night, where the children of tomorrow dream away in the wind of change. It may not come as a surprise to you that in 2020 a rumor began that this song was composed by the CIA. U.S. investigative journalist Patrick Radden Keefe sought to uncover whether this rumor could truly be possible. He did find that the CIA had worked in the cultural sphere, using American African musicians in the 60s and 70s without their knowledge, such as Louis Armstrong, for foreign policy purposes in numerous African nations. Yet, there was no proof and no evidence that the CIA could have composed this song. While it was written in 1989, it was published a year later, after the fall of the Berlin Wall, and the single was released even the next year, 1991, when everything had already happened. I lived through these changes and the tensions. The change truly was in the air. You could feel it. There was no telling where the changes would lead us, so there was fear and there was hope, all mixed together. As soon as freedom arrived, the leaders renamed our streets and parks and took down Lenin's monuments from all over the country. There was no need to keep visual reminders of our occupant heroes, whether they were literary artists or scientists or politicians. All of them now belonged to the museum, which has a creative name, the Occupation Museum. This new era began not just in newly freed countries. Even Russia renamed Leningrad to St. Petersburg. The change was so noticeable that my father, who knew every corner of the capital, every street, because he used to drive EMS crew to their calls, now was suddenly lost in the city. Yet it was important for Latvians to have our country back and be able to see our heroes honored. Our history teacher now taught us without books to look at history and events that were previously silenced. Please do not get me wrong. This story, it was not always flattering to Latvians. Latvians were as involved in war and after-war crimes as our occupants. But the time of reckoning had begun. I believe that the changes we are experiencing today have begun a time of reckoning again with our present and our past. We are in a place where we are asked to make changes, because what is and what has been is heavy and burdensome. The visual images seen in the video of George Floyd left no room for misconstruction of what had happened. The horrors of this and many other examples of police brutality and cruelty of racism lives among us just as our next door neighbor. The protests have raised our awareness, finally, I hope so, to a place where we can begin to listen to the voices of Black and brown people. Voices that have been here for centuries. What do you hear? What are they telling you? What I hear is that we cannot continue without listening to these voices and the changes around us. So I am more than ever exploring what these voices are saying. At the General Assembly this year, the Actions of Immediate Witness resolution was adopted to address 400 years of white supremacist colonialism. It says, one of the things that it says, is that we resolve to examine our practices, particularly the narratives regarding our origins and our holidays, and the U.S. holidays. Last week was 4th of July, a great place to start this examination. Yes, the pandemic has changed the way it was celebrated, but there is more to it. Not everyone has always celebrated 4th of July, celebrated as a day of freedom for all. In 1852, Frederick Douglass gave a speech. It is probably one of his most famous speeches. Douglass was invited to New York to speak in honor of commemorating the signing of the Declaration of Independence. In this speech, he condemned the celebration of the 4th of July as a festival of freedom for all people. He asked, "What to the slave is the 4th of July?" He respectfully outlined the ways the word all in the Declaration did not include the blacks and how his people continued to face oppression. Douglass concluded, This 4th of July is yours, not mine. You may rejoice. I must mourn. He was talking to some 500 abolitionists. The Corinthian Hall was the site of many anti-slavery speeches. Susan B. Anthony, William Lloyd Garrison, Ralph Waldo Emerson, Horace Greeley, and many others gave their addresses there. Were the abolitionists hearing him? Are we hearing the voices that America has been silencing for centuries? For many black and brown Americans, the 4th of July continues to be a painful reminder of all the injustices that America has inflicted on its people. Not only does the celebration of the independence ignores the years of slavery, it also ignores the genocide of indigenous people. Our UU faith puts responsibility on us to listen and practice our ethical responsibility to include all voices in the story of the United States. This is part of this work of social justice. It is part of reckoning with the past and the present. America is work in progress or process. We don't know. It will be a progress yet. Will America become truly a nation that values and strives for freedom for all? Our black and brown people, our neighbors and friends, are calling us to join their fight for justice, freedom, and equality. Are we going to journey with them? I invite you to join in our closing hymn, and I will say a few words about it. This hymn is an African American spiritual, and the original text said, "I'm on my way to the Canaan land." And during the time of the Underground Railroad, Canaan was a code word for Canada. And someone singing this song might have been signaling to others that they were going to run soon. In this context, the invitation for others to join takes on a different meaning. The work to get free involves risk, dangers, many unknowns, yet there is a willingness to go regardless. As we sing it today, may we be reminded that we are the ones invited to join this journey, to join our black and brown siblings and neighbors who are on this way regardless. I'm on my way to the freedom land. I'm on my way to the freedom land. I'm on my way to the freedom land. I'm on my way. I ask my sibling, come and go with me. I ask my sibling, come and go with me. I ask my sibling, come and go with me. I'm on my way. I'm on my way. If they say no, I'll go anyhow. If they say no, I'll go anyhow. If they say no, I'll go anyhow. I'm on my way. I'm on my way. I'm on my way, and I won't turn back. I'm on my way, and I won't turn back. I'm on my way, and I won't turn back. Great God, I'm on my way. I'm on my way. We extinguish this chalice flame, daring to carry forward the vision of this free faith, that freedom, reason, and justice will one day prevail in this nation and across the earth. I send you out now to share yourself with the world. May its promise and complexity set your mind ablaze. May you hold fast to what your life has taught you. May you question everything, and when you have changed the world, and the world has changed you, may you return again to this place and share what you have learned with us. The words of Kelly Wiseman Asproth Jackson. May it be so.